See if we can get this party started. Are we live? Somebody drop a comment, let me know that we're live. Welcome back to another Thursday night. My hat always looks crooked when I'm looking at myself on this deal. I'll probably just have a crooked. The hat's probably perfectly straight. My head is probably crooked, and that feels weird. I just realized that I always wear my hat crooked, like all the time. That's a strange feeling. I'm live. All right, what's up? We got a lot of people joining us tonight. That's awesome, man. Top 5 baits. It's hard to fit them all into 5 this time of year. We should probably say, are you going to do shad spawn? Or are you going to do backwater spawning / post spawn? There's a new little thing getting started right now called the Brim spawn or bluegill spawn. A lot of different ways to go about it. There's some fish starting to get out to eat. Like, there's a lot of different ways to skin the cat right now, boys. I'm just going to tell you. You know, the shad spawn is awesome. Like, really, really, really awesome. The gizzard shad spawn seems to be kind of maybe starting to get on its way out a little bit. I'm not saying it's over. I'm not saying it's like about to be over. But it's not as prevalent as it has been, in my opinion. So, we're going to turn our focus off of that because if you haven't already found it, you're not already keyed in on it, it's going to be harder for you to find because there's less of it happening. So, threadfin spawn is definitely still going on. But we're not going to talk about that either because that only lasts for about 30 minutes, depending on the day. If it's cloudy, it'll last longer, but a lot of days only last about 30 minutes. So, we're going to talk about post-spawn fish and brim spawn, which is the consistent pattern that should be coming to us going forward over the next several weeks, starting right now. So, let's talk about bluegill spawn baits. Topwater poppers. You can also, this can be a dual purpose if you want to fish that first 30 minutes of shad spawn on windblown, main lake-ish type points. The red clay points on Lake Fork's what I look for. Basically, look for cranes. Look for white egrets and blue herons. Mainly look for blue herons. White egrets not as good. Sometimes they can cue you in, though. Just look for those birds that stand on the bank and stab fish. Wherever you see those on a windblown point, there's probably a shad spawn going on. Go throw you a topwater popper like Splashback 70 from 6 Sense Fishing. You'll probably catch a lot of fish in a hurry for the first 30 minutes to an hour of daylight. So, there's number 1, topwater popper, Splashback 70. By the way, that's from 6 Sense Fishing. If you go to 6censefishing.com and place an order, be sure you punch in the code Your Lake Fork Guide. Get a 10% discount on all orders. Second, we've been talking about a frog. A frog is still a great way to go about it when the brim are spawning, the post spawn, high water from all the rains, like everything's setting up for a frog right now, guys. You should definitely have a frog tied on. And it's the time of year where I get to pick up my favorite color frog because the brim are starting to spawn. Oh, yellow belly. I know y'all remember him. Some of y'all that have been here for a while, you remember this guy right here. For those of you that don't, this is my frog dog. His name is Old Yellow Belly. And we likes to get down together. He goes out and fetches up my bass for me, and I scratch his ears. Just like that right there. That's my frog dog. Yellow belly, number 2. All right, now let's get specific to brim spawn type stuff. So, if you guys don't know what brim beds look like, they look like moon craters under the water. If you see that, back off of that area. Find any cover around adjacent to the moon craters. Stumps, grass edges, flooded cover, anything that a bass could possibly hold on that is next to those moon crater beds. Pick yourself up a 6 Sense hybrid jig, 3/8 ounce hybrid jig in the grass mutant color. That's my preferred color. Anything that's green and brown will work. But grass mutant's my favorite one. They got several that are really good. Green pumpkin smash crawl trimmed down nice and short and compact. As you guys can see, that's not a very big jig profile right there. I like it to be as short and compact as possible. I feel like most of the brim that these bass eat are about that long, which is about that long. So there you go. That's bait number 3. Just throw that to the visible cover, right up next to the stumps, flooded buckbrush, flooded grass edges, whatever you can find next to the brim beds. All right, more of the same here. Basically the exact same thing, just a little different look, but a lightweight Texas rig with a small compact creature bait, same deal. This is a Reaction Innovation Sweet Beaver. Also like a baby brush hog a lot. Baby brush hog and like watermelon candy red flake. Somebody said something about the cooler weather. I'm ready for the cooler weather because the warmer weather has this thing going nuts the last few days. Yeah, Okeechobee Crawl's color I got on the Sweet Beaver. That looks like a brim. Any kind of watermelon candy, watermelon red, all that stuff can be mistaken for the brim that we have in these lakes around here, the red ear and the other type of brim that we have. They all have a greenish and brownish tint to it. So if you're using greens and browns, you're good on color. Whew. Same deal. Throw it around the flooded cover, around the moon crater beds, which are kind of hard to see right now. They're kind of hard to see right now because we got high water, we got a lot of dirty water too. So I'm going to go ahead and give you the key to finding the brim bed. If you're in an area and you ever see those little tiny glass minnows? If you see those go skipping out of the water, they go out of the water like that. If you see that this time of year, it could be small bass. It could be. The odds are, though, this time of year, when you see that, those things stumbled upon an area where brim are bedding, and them brim got to chasing them off the bed and are trying to eat them and whatever they're doing. Brim are very, very, very aggressive, so they will chase anything that gets in the neighborhood of their beds. They'll run out way off their bed and come back to it. They're very aggressive critters. So if you see those little pin minnows, those little glass minnows go skipping out of the water, there's probably a brim bed in that area. You should probably back off and pick apart every piece of cover around that area. And believe it or not, you will catch these little tiny pin minnows can cue you in to catch some really big bass. Not that the big bass are eating those little pin minnows, but the stuff that's chasing those pin minnows, the bass are waiting to ambush, and if you put your bait in their face, they'll ambush your bait instead. That being said, there's one more way to catch them that kind of relates to the brim spawn, not really. It really relates more to just post-spawn fish in general. There's a lot of fish starting to go deep. There's a lot of fish on our lakes around here in East Texas that don't go deep. And when you have the situation that we have with all the rain and all the high dirty water and all the flooded cover on the shoreline, there's a whole lot of stuff for them to hide under. And they love to do that when that water's up like it is now. And when they get buried up in all that thick cover, that brings into play one of my very most favoriteest techniques of all time, and that is punching. So yes, same reaction innovation Sweet Beaver, throwing it with a 1 ounce tungsten on a 5/0 short shank flipping hook. That is the Mustad Ultra Pin flipping hook that I'm using. Okeechobee Crawl is my favorite color under a mat. I think blue, a dark color with blue, be it black and blue or the Okeechobee Crawl. Both of those show up good under the mat, in my opinion. Especially on these bright days like we had today. Bright, calm. Most of the day today was really bright and really calm. That is prime conditions for punching. I have caught them punching in cloudy weather. I think that big fish, after they get done spawning for a little while, are very lethargic. And I think they like to get up under that super heavy cover and rest and ambush anything that comes by. And when you drop that 1 ounce weight through that mat, it's a reaction bite, guys. Here's the thing about punching. There's a lot of things I love about punching, but maybe the best part about punching is when you drop that bait through that mat and it goes zipping by their face. If they're in that mat, you're going to catch some of them. It's not a deal where they're biting it because they want to eat it. It is a total reaction bite. It zips by their head and they snap at it and they hit it hard and violent. And they can't not hit it. So if they're in there, you will find them punching. And when they're in there every day. It never fails. It's an amazing pattern. It's close quarters combat, big line, we use 65-pound braids, 7.5 foot, flipping stick, heavy action, fast tip, bad to the bone rods, and it's close quarters, and it's all you can do to get them big fish up out of that matted heavy vegetation. So, there's your 5 baits. Certainly hope that helps. Is the big swim bait thing over right now? No, that's the gizzard shad spawn. The gizzard shad spawn, there's still some of it going on, but it is winding down some. Now, there's a whole other big swim bait deal that's just getting started, and that's the offshore deep water deal. The same places that you would maybe go to throw a Carolina rig or a football jig or a deep diving crankbait, especially on Lake Fork and really all these lakes around here that have these big bass and these big gizzard shad. Throwing 6-inch, 7-inch swim baits on a 1-ounce jig head is a deal. I mean, it's a real deal. So the shallow point big swim bait deal is still there, but not as prevalent as it was. It's not as hot and heavy as it was. It's not all over the lake like it was. But the deep water deal is just getting going. Like, we're on the very front edge of it. You talk about top bait. What is your go-to reel? My go-to reel is going to be this one right here. Lew's Hypermag. Super light. It's like 5.2 or 5.4 ounces. It's incredibly light reel. Very long casting, very smooth. It is, in my opinion, probably the best reel on the market today for my money. I think it is, bar none, bar price tag, bar anything. Lew's Hypermag is probably the best reel on the market, in my opinion. That's my favorite reel. What's a great wake bait that looks like a square bill? The wake bait to throw, if you haven't thrown the 6 Sense Movement series of crankbaits, the Movement 80X dives just a couple feet, 2 to 3 feet under the surface. But the action on these baits is so unique and so intense. I mean, it's so much vibration for a crankbait. Oh, I'm about to sneeze. Oh, man, I'm telling you. Cold weather will do me some favors, I promise you. Yeah, spring allergies are an awesome trait for a fishing guide, by the way. Let me just stop right there and tell you that. What was it? Wake bait. They have a Movement 80 Wake. It has that same crazy vibration, moves a lot of water, and if you got a wake bait, you want them to move a lot of water and create that big disturbance right under the surface. So 6 Sense Fishing Movement 80 Wake would definitely be my wake bait recommendation. What would you do at Toledo in the Big Bass Splash next weekend? Oof, man, I'd have to get down there and see. You know, I'm going to tell you, I'd go one extreme or the other. I'd go to the back of a creek, like the back of a creek, and get down and dirty on that frog and maybe a swim jig and some of the stuff we're talking about, the brim bed and stuff. Or I'd go way out offshore, 25 foot of water, looking for fish that are set up on points and humps and flat spots out in that deep water. That would, without a doubt, be where I would start. I would start at both extremes and figure out which one gave me a better chance. Cat Ron says, rumors of the turtles are starting to take over Mexico lakes now. Is that true? Well, I don't know if they hitchhiked a ride on somebody's boat trailer down there, if they traveled. Cat Ron, that's too inside of a joke. Most of these people have no idea what we're talking about, but that's really funny. If you did know it, it's hilarious. When would you throw the big square bill over the Movement 80X? Just when I want to achieve deeper depths. The Movement 80X is only going to dive 2 to 3 foot. The big square bill is going to go like 5 to 6 foot. Sometimes even a little deeper than that, depending on your setup. So if I was wanting to hit deeper depths and like hit bottom at deeper depths, then I would go to the big square bill. The 3.8 would be that 3.8. That mini mag is a bad. So I'm going to go 6 Sense as well. Golly, guys, I'm sorry. My nose is driving me crazy. I'm trying real hard not to sneeze on a live stream. Am I still throwing a chatterbait much? Yeah. I mean, yeah. I guess no would be the answer. I'm really not throwing it much. But it's definitely still on the deck of my boat. Like, it's definitely still there. I mean, it can still catch fish, especially if you get in the back of a pocket and it's windy. Man, the chatterbait's hard to beat. We got a tournament this weekend on Ray Roberts. How would you approach that lake now with all the flooding that's been going on? Flip. Man, all these lakes that are flooded, go flipping. If they're flooded, go flipping. That's my answer to all of them. Like, if you go into ponds, it's like 18 feet high or whatever the hell ponds is now. Go flip. Seems like the elites played in that 10 to 15 feet for most of the bigs. The elite series was just on fork. If you don't know, the elite series was just Bassmaster Elite Series was just on fork this last week. Seems like the elites played in that 10 to 15 feet for most of the bigs. The water clarity kept them from grouping up in 20 plus. No, I don't think it's the water clarity. I think it's just we're just behind. Like seasonal pattern wise, we're just way behind. Like, I realize that the calendar says May, but the water says, like, maybe the third week of April at the latest. That's kind of what we've got right now, so. And, yeah, the guys, so there was a little bit of fish. Oh, my goodness. There was some fish being caught in that 10 to 15 feet range for the Elite Series guys. Now, that being said, the majority of them were not caught that deep. The majority of them were caught much shallower. And Brandon Cobb, who won the thing, caught the biggest fish of the tournament sight fishing on the bank, a bedding fish. And he caught a lot of his big tournaments on points that were like about that deep of water where he was catching them. These were very shallow points. This was a gizzard shad spawn deal that he'd have found. Yeah. Somebody says, I think Mike one-upped you with his YouTube channel name, The Lake Fork Guide. No worries, because both of you have done a great job, and thank you for all that you've shared at Grower Sport. Yeah, I actually gave Mike that name. I told him he should use that name. I told him he should rename his website that name. I told him he should rename his Facebook page that name. So he didn't one-up me, I don't think. I mean, I got no issues with Mike. I don't think Mike has any issues with me. Actually, he might. He spent enough time with me. He probably does have some issues with me. But, no, man, Mike's awesome, dude. Wish him the best of luck. Yeah, The Lake Fork Guide is Mike's deal. Why the format change on the Elite? I don't know what you mean the format. What format did they change? If you mean weighing them in the boat, they've been doing the weigh them in the boat deal on, so it's now called Texas Fest. Like, basically Bassmaster bought a tournament, bought the whole rights to this tournament. I don't know if they paid for it. They took it over. What was used to be called the Toyota Texas Bass Classic, and it was a combo tournament of FLW and Bassmaster guys. They picked the top from each tour. They had 40 or 50 guys here, something like that. And it was always a whale in your boat deal. It was always immediate release. It's always ultimate about fish care. This was done before MLF was even a thing. This was back to 2006 when they started this deal. And they weighed them in the boat and dumped them right back in the lake. So this was done way before MLF ever did their whole weigh them immediately and release deal. This tournament's always been that format. This tournament used to be the Toyota Texas Bass Classic. It's now the Bassmaster Texas Fest, but it's always been weigh them in the boat and immediately release them. It's hailing like crazy at Rayburn. Ooh, duck. I don't know what to tell you. Michael Sims says, boy, the old fort got rough this afternoon. Yeah, late in the day. It was calm. It was glass-lit calm all day. And then all of a sudden at 4 o'clock, somebody opened the gates on the wind and everybody was taking waves over their bow. It was nuts. What is my flipping setup right now? My flipping setup is the Lew's Hypermag 7.5-to-1 gear ratio, 65-pound braid, and 6 cents Lux Series rod, 7.6 heavy. D. Watts says he's going to see us at the seminar tomorrow. Man, that's going to be awesome, dude. We look forward to having you there. D. Watts, my boy. Old baseball star. A boat sunk at Tawakoni this afternoon. Dude, I believe it. That lake gets nasty. How do I rig my Carolina rig? I actually do a Carolina rig a little different than anybody else I've ever heard of. Are we having a seminar this Friday or on the Friday, the weekend of Legend of Fork? We're having one tomorrow, and then we're having one 2 weeks after that. So I don't know if the Legends of Lake Fork falls on that. I don't think it does. I think it falls next week. I don't know. I don't know their schedule exactly. How do I rig my Carolina rig? So how I rig my Carolina rig is I actually use 20-pound fluorocarbon. I take a 1 ounce weight. I put it on the line. Then I take 3 bobber stoppers and I put it underneath that weight, and I can slide it and adjust my leader to any length I want. That's not really technically a leader anymore. And then I just tie my hook on and put my bait on. Usually a baby brush hog or a bubble fry, one of those two. It is a way that when I break off, if I break the hook off, I don't have to retie swivel, I don't have to retie a leader. I just slide the bobber stops up. If I want to change the length of my leader at any time, I can do it at any time. And when I get hung up, when the weight gets hung up, if I pull hard enough on it, it'll go down to the hook. Now I have a one-piece bait like a Texas rig that's easier to get unhung. I very rarely do I break off with those bobber stops on there on a Carolina rig, no matter what kind of cover I fish. So that's why I do it. It's silent, which I prefer anyways on fork because that's different than what everybody else does. And a lot of times on pressure lakes doing something different, it's really good. Fish Life Grapevine Louisville update. We just updated everything right at the 1st of May. Everything just got updated. Now, Grapevine and Louisville are experiencing some crazy conditions because they're way high. I think they might even be closed down or something. I don't remember. But they're way high flooded. Now, we're not going to change anything on the Fish Life app because that water's going to be coming back down to where it was before. If it stays flooded and it looks like it's going to stay flooded for a long time, then possibly we will go in to do an update on the new flooded conditions. But right now, nobody can even get on and fish it, I think. So, correct me if I'm wrong there. Anyway, that's the deal. This is a great question. Nick Cavazos. I'm sorry, I always butcher your last name, buddy. I'm sorry. Nick Cavazos. Did anything surprise you about the way Texas Fest played out? Yes. The gizzard shad spawn wasn't as good as it should have been because of the fluctuating water levels, I believe. I believe that played a part. In general, the bite just wasn't as good as it should have been. I know they caught like 114 pounds over 4 days, and that's awesome, but it should have been it should have been way higher than that. What happened was the day before the tournament, like 24 hours before the tournament started, they started dropping lake, and they dropped the bottom out of it, and then it dumped all night the night before the tournament. The lake jumped back up. Then they tried to slow the flow during the tournament. For whatever reason, they only opened one gate the first day of the tournament. And more water was coming in because we had so much rain the night before. More runoff was coming in. The lake got overfull. So then they had to open all the gates. And they dropped it down. Like, the lake just never got stable. It did a little bit on Sunday. And you kind of saw, on the third day of competition, you kind of saw a little bit of what was. That's when Cobb caught 38 pounds. That's when a lot of guys caught big bags. I truly believe it would have taken about a 35-pound average over 4 days if the lake would have just been stable, if we wouldn't have got all that rain and all those crazy water level changes. That surprised me. The weights were lower than I thought, but I understand why, so it really didn't surprise me that much when I saw what happened as far as the crazy conditions that were presented. Those guys did a great job adjusting to the conditions. They still took advantage of the gizzard shad spawn that was there to be taken advantage of, but I can tell you, there was a guy named Chris Zaldane that got the raw end of this deal. Because I know the fish that he was on. I know the spots he was fishing. I know what those spots were producing literally leading up to the day before the tournament. All week, for like a week and a half, 2 weeks before that, every single day these spots were kicking out giant fish. And it was multiple guys fishing them. They were all catching big fish. And if Zaldane would have had that during that tournament, he would have broke the all-time record. There's no doubt about it. But those fish did not bite the way they had been. They did not bite at all. They did the first morning a little bit. He got on one good group of them that first morning, and he had like 30 pounds in the first few hours. But I was surprised. I was surprised how low the weights were, but it was because of a lot of things. Nearest city, Lake Fork, that was answered. Tournament was canceled at Louisville last weekend for ramps being underwater. And floating timber. Wow. Yeah, Louisville's hurting. Do I have a update on the release of the sensory rods? I haven't specifically asked them. The last I heard it, I can't remember. He either told me it was May or June. I don't have a recent update. I can try to find out and get back with you guys next week on that one, actually. Can't wait to get pie at Lake Fork Marina. That's always something to look forward to when you come down here, that's for sure. The pie at Tiffany's at Lake Fork Marina, man, it's unbelievable. 11 pounder was a beast at Cobb Caught. Yes, that 11 pounder was a beast at Cobb Caught. That was here's the deal, guys. How many Elite Series pros did you guys hear? If you guys watch the live coverage pretty adamantly, how many times did you hear a guy that fishes for a living full time go, "That's the biggest bass of my life. This is a new personal best. This is my biggest bass ever." Like, these are guys that fish every day. They fish tournaments all year round, and they're like, Lake Fork is where the pros come to catch their personal best. If that doesn't say everything you need to know about Lake Fork, I don't know what does. Bobby Spang from Magnolia in the house. We appreciate you joining us, Bobby. Down there in my old stomping grounds. Am I still throwing the Poacher, and when do you stop throwing it? I have not been throwing the Poacher, but I'm not throwing a lot of swim baits anymore. I'm throwing the little hollow belly on the shad spawn deal, especially the threadfin. I'm throwing a small hollow body. I'm probably not. Man, there's so many ways to go about it. I'm just, god dang. We're catching a lot of fish on top waters, and that's a lot of fun, and I'm doing that a lot, and then I'm flipping a lot. I've kind of gotten into this top water and this flipping deal here the last week or so, and it's working for me. Man, it doesn't mean they can't work. The Poacher's not a bait you ever really have to put down. It's small enough. That's what I love about it. It acts like a big swim bait. It kind of looks like a big swim bait, but it's a small enough profile. You can kind of get away with throwing it year round. As long as they're fish shallow, you can throw it. Really not a bad time. Fishing Midwest says, caught my new PB on a 6 cents quarter ounce black and blue jig. Heck yeah, buddy. That's awesome, dude. Congratulations. That is awesome, man. How big was it? How big was your new PB? That's really cool. Which I know you live kind of up north, so it may not be giant, but... What would you recommend if I was fishing fork out of a kayak since I can't cover as much water? What would I recommend? That's a tough one to answer right off the top of my head. Man, you got to commit to an area, obviously. I would commit to some of the more southern spawning areas, and I would try to fish that bluegill spawn type stuff that we talked about tonight in those areas and go real slow, methodical, flipping, pitching to cover, throwing that frog, all that type of stuff you can do from a kayak. You can get in an area and go real slow and pick it apart. That would probably be how I would go about it. 9 pounds, 12 ounces for the PB for fishing Midwest. That's awesome, dude. Congratulations. That's really, really close to a double digit. That's incredible. Michael Sims said he caught 11 fish today using the Fish Life app, but he could not get a topwater bite at all. Caught all mine on weightless Senko and a Texas rig. Well, I don't know what to tell you on topwater, but I caught quite a few on topwater first thing this morning. Is there a deep bite yet? Yeah, yes. It's just starting, but yes, there's a deep bite. It's just getting going. By the time you get here at the end of May, it should be really good, Bobby Spang. Why did Ronnie say he stops throwing the frog in June? I was killing them last summer on a frog on all East Texas lakes. The only reason that Ronnie says that he stops throwing a frog in June is because that sucker is absolutely addicted to deep cranking. It's not because the frog don't still work. It's because he don't throw it anymore because he's out there deep cranking all day. That's why. But he's a goober, so take that for what it's worth. Boy, y'all got after the questions tonight, man, and I really cannot tell you guys thank you enough. Y'all did an awesome job. Y'all kept me busy tonight. Full roster, as they might say. Man, you guys are awesome. If you need some help on your local lakes, if one of our Fish Life app lakes applies to you, please do subscribe to that. If you haven't, go check out my Facebook page and see all the fish we just posted that got caught in April. Now, I posted 40 pictures of big fish, but there would be a lot more, but Facebook only allows you to post 40 pics at a time. So, stink bait prank was awesome. Oh, Smelly Kelly with his stinky fingers. That's my boy. It's all love, man. Me and him get after each other a lot, but it's all love. So, all right. I'm going to quit rambling, as I always tend to do at the end of these things. Thank you guys so much. Go check out 6 Inch Fishing. Punch in that code, your Lake Fork Guide. Go check out the Fish Life app. And we'll see you next time right here on your Lake Fork Guide.